The rain falls softly, a gentle patter against the window, as the darkness whispers secrets too heavy for daylight. Tonight, we slip into the shadows of Xinhua village, where a woman's quiet vengeance carved a path of blood through a sleepy hamlet. In April 2010, two brothers vanished from their rural home in China's Heilongjiang province, their absence rippling through the village like a stone dropped in still water. Liu Yun, the 65-year-old cook known as Liu Boss, and his younger brother Liu Laoliu, a sociable farmer, disappeared just 3 days apart. Their homes left eerily open, lights burning in empty rooms. But behind their vanishing lay the hand of Su Han, a woman whose life of silent suffering had forged a killer's resolve. Su Han was no stranger to hardship. Born in 1970 in Ning'an, she bore the weight of family duties from childhood, her dreams of medicine stifled by a loveless marriage and a cheating husband who abandoned her with a young daughter. Returning to Xinhua village, she rebuilt her life, running a clinic, caring for her aging parents, her daughter, and her adopted children. But the men in her life, her husband, her brother-in-law, Yan Bingtao, and later the Liu brothers, brought only betrayal and pain. In 2003, when Bingtao stormed into her home, threatening her sister and their children, Hong snapped. A beer bottle to his temple left him writhing, then still. Her father, complicit in her darkness, burned the body, masking the crime with a forged text claiming Bingtao had fled south. 2 years later, her sister-in-law, Lei Shuang, crossed her, flaunting an affair that stained the family name. Hong's rage found a hemp rope, and Xu Yin's body joined the secrets in her cellar, hidden beneath garbage and feces. The Liu brothers' crimes against her were no less vile. Xu Yun and Lao Liu, to whom she owed money, used her debt as leverage, forcing her into repeated sexual assaults under the guise of repayment. By April 2010, Xu Yun's plans to marry and leave the village pushed Hong to act. On April 26th, she lured him to her home, promising to settle her debt. Instead, she offered him capsules laced with crushed sleeping pills, disguised as Viagra. As he collapsed, she strangled him with a hemp rope, wrapped his body in a sheet, and hid it in her cellar. 3 days later, Laoliu met the same fate, his body joining his brothers in the dank, forgotten crypt beneath her yard. Hong's signature was chilling in its simplicity. A rope, a sheet, and a cellar where her victims lay shrouded in silence, their bodies decaying amid the stench of her vengeance. She was a master of deception, her calm demeanor and respected role as the village doctor cloaking her in innocence. When police questioned her about Laoliu's calls to her phone on the day he vanished, she spun a tale of repaid debts, her voice steady, her story corroborated by villagers who saw only her kindness. Even as suspicion grew, she sent texts from Laoliu's phone, crafting a confession that painted him as his brother's killer, a desperate bid to throw the police off her trail. The messages, too polished for Laoliu's uneducated hand, only deepened the mystery. But Hong remained untouched, her clinic a beacon of trust in a village blind to her darkness. It was a hidden cellar, buried under weeds, that betrayed her. On May 19, 2010, police, skeptical of her denial of owning such a space in a region where cellars were common, uncovered the entrance. The foul stench hit them first, a prelude to the horror within. Two bodies, wrapped in blue and green sheets, confirmed the worst. Shu-yun and Liao-liu, strangled and discarded. But the cellar held more. A skeleton, later identified as Li Shuang, proof that Holmes' killing spree stretched back years. Her panic as police probed the cellar gave way to a confession, first to the brothers' murders, then to Shu-yin's, and finally to Bing Dao's, though his remains were lost to her father's fire. Hong's trial in 2011 was swift. She offered no defense, no remorse, only a plea for death to escape the shame of her exposed crime. The Mudanjiang City Court obliged, and on February 10, 2012, Su Hong was executed, her final words a haunting question. Why do men always treat me like this? As her life ended, the village grappled with the paradox of a woman who was both healer and destroyer, her cellar a tomb for those who wronged her. The rain falls heavier now, blurring the line between justice and vengeance. As we drift into another nightmare, the shadows shift, and we find ourselves in 1970, in the quiet town of South Lake Tahoe, where a young nurse named Donna Lass vanished into a mystery that lingers like fog over the pines. Her disappearance was a whisper in the wind, unnoticed, until a fisherman's grim discovery in 1986. A woman's skull, found 80 kilometers west of her last known location. For decades, it remained a silent enigma, until December 2023, when DNA confirmed it was Donna's, reigniting questions of a killer who may have been the Zodiac. Donna Lass, 25, was a nurse in Nevada. Her life won a quiet routine until September 1970, when she vanished without a trace. No signs of struggle, no witnesses, only a void where her presence had been. Some investigators, led by the relentless Detective Harvey Hines, believe she crossed paths with the Zodiac, the elusive killer whose cryptic taunts terrorized California. Hines pointed to the Peek Through the Pines postcard sent by the Zodiac months after Donna's disappearance as a possible clue to her fate, its words hinting at a body hidden in the wilderness. What drove her killer, if it was the Zodiac, remains a shadow. Was it his obsession with control, his need to taunt, or a chance encounter that sealed her doom? The absence of evidence leaves only speculation, a descent into a mind that thrived on chaos. The skull, stripped of flesh and story, was the Zodiac's signature, if he was indeed her killer. Unlike his confirmed victims, marked by gunshots or stabs, Donna's remains offered no clear cause of death, only the chilling possibility that her body was left to decay in the Sierra Nevada's vast. The postcard, with its cryptic reference to pines, became the gruesome hallmark, a killer's gloat that her resting place was just beyond reach, hidden in plain sight among nature's indifference. If the Zodiac was responsible, his evasion was his art. He slipped through the 1970s, leaving ciphers and letters that mocked police, his identity a puzzle never solved. Donna's case, like others linked to him, lacked the physical evidence to confirm his hand, allowing him to vanish into legend. Hines, who chased a suspect he believed to be the Zodiac, found no concrete tie to Donna, yet his conviction never wavered. The killer's ability to blend into the ordinary, perhaps as a neighbor, a passerby, kept him untouchable, his crimes a riddle wrapped in anonymity. No one was ever caught for Donna's murder, No one was ever caught for Donna's murder. The Placer County Sheriff's Office, even after identifying her skull, has remained silent on any Zodiac connection, leaving her case open, a wound unhealed. The Zodiac, if he was her killer, faded into the ether, his fate as unknown as the pines he may have referenced. Was he dead, imprisoned for another crime, or simply watching from the shadows? The question lingers unresolved as the rain carries us to another tale. In Zaragoza, Spain, the promise of passion on a dating app became a lure for death. Orchestrated by a woman known as Bella, Daniela, or Dulce, a Venezuelan predator named Hedangaline Ariet. From 2019, she and her partner, Mohammed Akraf, spun a web on Badoo, ensnaring men with flirtatious texts and explicit promises, only to deliver them to robbery, torture, and murder. Posing as a young Dominican or Brazilian woman, she crafted personas to entice men like Florin J., a 37-year-old Romanian truck driver, and Julian L., a 59-year-old businessman. Dotting her messages, laced with sensuality, drew them to isolated spots, a lonely bridge, an empty train station where her partner waited in ambush. For Jose Antonio Delgado, a 54-year-old computer scientist, the trap was fatal. On September 6, 2019, he met Dulce through Badoo, his last words to friends hinting at a weekend of romance. Instead, he met a grave. Arieta's motives were greed and control, her charm a mask for a heart that thrived on others' suffering. Her signature was brutal and cinematic. Victims bound with bridles, gagged with duct tape, and shocked with a taser. Florin was left shoeless in a cane field, his bank card stolen after a knife pressed to his throat. Julian, beaten with a wrench and threatened with a pistol, was dumped in a field with a broken leg, his pleas for mercy ignored. Jose Antonio's fate was the grimmest. His skull and ribs crushed, he was buried alive in a ravine, earth clogging his throat as he gasped his final breath. The savagery of burying a man still alive marked Arieta's crimes with a horror that chilled even seasoned investigators. Arieta and Akraf evaded capture through digital cunning. After each attack, they deleted their Badoo profiles, re-emerging with new aliases to hunt again. They exploited the anonymity of dating apps, targeting men too embarrassed or isolated to report their ordeal. Jose Antonio's car, sold for 21,000 euros on a website, bore the same phone number Arieta used, yet her charm and forged documents disarmed suspicion. They hid in plain sight, living in an industrial building in Pedrola, Akraf, under restraining orders, Arieta cloaked by her asylum seeker status. Their downfall came in October 2019, when Jose Antonio's body was found in the Salto del Lobo ravine, his injuries betraying a brutal end. Bank card withdrawals led police to ADMM footage where a sergeant recognized Akraf. Searches of their hideout uncovered Florin's phone, Julian's belongings, and Jose Antonio's jewelry, flushed down a toilet in a desperate bid to hide evidence. Arieta and Akraf were arrested, their reign of terror ended by the persistence of victims' accounts and a single gold chain. Both were convicted, facing decades in prison, their crimes a stark reminder of the dangers lurking behind a screen. As the rain softens, the image of Jose Antonio's grave fades, and we drift to another darkness, where a river carries a woman's secrets. Cayo Perdiane. In Wilmington, Delaware, on July 23, 2019, the Brandywine River cradled a body, its gentle current hiding a violent truth. Susan Ledyard, a woman whose late-night texts to friends spoke of summer freedom, was found floating 3 miles from her car. Her death ruled a homicide by blunt force trauma and drown. Susan's descent into tragedy began in the early hours. After texting friends past 3 a.m., she drove to a small lot near the river, parking by a business, perhaps drawn by a whim or a meeting that turned deadly. Between 3 a.m. and 7:39 a.m., when her body was spotted, her Fitbit tracked only a mile of movement, her pulse fading around 7 a.m. The river, too calm to carry her far, suggested she didn't enter the water where she parked. Was she lured to a wooded park near the Greenway Trail, a place of tire swings and shallow waters, or did someone strike her elsewhere, moving her to the river's embrace? Her killer's motive, passion, opportunity, or something darker, remains a shadow in the case. The blunt force trauma, paired with drowning, was the chilling signature. The Fitbit's data, a mile walked, a pulse until 7 a.m. suggests she was struck, perhaps knocked semi-conscious, and placed in the river alive, drifting 2 more miles until she snagged on an obstacle and drowned. The staging feels deliberate, the trauma and drowning separated by time, her body carried by the current to obscure the crime's origin. A killer who knew the river's flow, perhaps aware of her Fitbit, might have counted on it drifting unnoticed into the bay. Susan's killer evaded scrutiny by exploiting the river's deceptive calm and the 4-hour gap in her time. No witnesses saw her leave her car. No cameras captured her path. The wooded areas near the river offered cover, a place where a crime of opportunity or rage could unfold unseen. Police, tight-lipped about her Fitbit's heart rate data, no more than they shared, leaving the public to wonder if her killer was a stranger or someone she knew. No arrests have been made. Susan's case remains open, her family fighting for answers as the river keeps its secrets. Did she walk willingly to her fate, or was she carried, alive but fading, to the water? The question of where she entered the Brandywine lingers, a puzzle unsolved as the rain pulls us to one final tale. In Houston, Texas, on Christmas 2010, a 12-year-old boy named Jonathan Foster vanished from his family's apartment, his absence a wound that festered until his burned, tortured body was found in a culvert 4 days later. The killer, Mona Nelson, was a woman whose violence defied the ordinary, her crimes hinting at a darkness that may have claimed others. Mona, a 44-year-old welder and failed heavyweight boxer, was no stranger to crime, her life marked by escalating aggression. On that Christmas, she saw an opportunity in Jonathan, a boy living in an apartment she knew through an acquaintance. Her motive was chillingly opaque, perhaps a sadistic urge to dominate, perhaps a twisted need to train her fighting skills. She abducted him, and over hours her brutality unfolded, a descent into a mind that found pleasure in pain. Her signature was unrelenting cruelty. Jonathan's body bore marks of prolonged torture, punches and kicks from a woman trained to fight, and burns from an acetylene torch, her welder's tool turned weapon. The flames, applied before and after death, seared his flesh, a deliberate attempt to erase his identity, turning him, as her attorney callously claimed, into a piece of firewood. The horror of burning a living child, his body broken over hours, marks her crime as one of rare visceral sadism. Mona evaded suspicion with chilling efficiency. She blended into the neighborhood, quietly watching the search for Jonathan, her presence unremarkable to those who saw her. Her car, caught on security footage dumping his body, was her only misstep. Witnesses recognized it from the apartment complex, and others identified her as the driver. Her criminal versatility, abduction, torture, disposal, suggested a practiced hand, as Detective Michael Miller later argued, convinced she had killed before. Her capture came swiftly once the footage surfaced. A search of her home uncovered evidence tied to Jonathan's body, sealing her fate. She denied everything, her stories shifting, claiming innocence, then blaming others, then insisting she only disposed of the body. Convicted in 2013, she was sentenced to life, shouting her innocence even as the evidence damned her. Miller remained certain she was a serial killer, her methods too calculated for a single crime, but resources to link her to other cases have yet to materialize. As the rain slows to a whisper, Mona Nelson's fate, locked away for life, offers cold comfort. The question of other victims hangs unanswered, a shadow in the culvert where Jonathan was found. The darkness recedes, but the unease remains as we drift into sleep, haunted by the minds that lurk beyond the light. The seaside town of Youghal, East Cork, with its gentle waves and close-knit community, seemed an unlikely stage for a chilling betrayal. Tina Satchwell, a 44-year-old woman known for her love of animals and vibrant personality, lived there with her husband of 25 years, Richard Satchwell, and their 2 dogs. Their home at 3 Grattan Street was a quiet refuge until March 20th, 2017, when Tina vanished, leaving behind a mystery that would unravel into a grim tale of deception and murder. On March 19, 2017, Tina was last seen at a car boot sale in nearby Carrigtwohill, her laughter mingling with the crowd's chatter. The next morning, Richard claimed he saw her at 10 a.m. when she asked him to drive 40 miles to an Aldi in Dungarvan to buy fish, a peculiar request that would later raise eyebrows. When he returned around noon, Tina was gone. Her phone, bank account, and identification remained untouched, and 2 suitcases were missing from their home. Richard waited 4 days before reporting her disappearance to the Garda Síochána on March 24th, claiming Tina was depressed over family disputes and had left to get her head straight. He spun a story of her fleeing to the UK with €26,000 from a house sale, possibly aided by a third party. Her family, led by her Aunt Margaret Meyer, vehemently denied this, insisting Tina would never leave without a word. The Gardaí confirmed she hadn't passed through any Irish or UK ports or airports, anchoring her disappearance firmly in Ireland. Richard's behavior fueled suspicion. In June 2017, he appeared on Crime Call alongside Margaret, pleading for information, his voice steady, but his story vague. Social media buzzed with accusations, prompting him to agree to a lie detector test during a Cork's Red FM interview, only to back out, citing stress. His media appearances continued, including a January 2018 primetime special and a stint on The Ray Darcy Show, where he painted himself as a grieving husband. Yet, his shifting narratives and calm demeanor clashed with the absence of concrete leads. The Gardaí searched Mitchell's Wood near Castle Martyr in March 2018, following a tip about someone seen leaving the woods the night Tina vanished. Detection dogs scoured the area, and a no-fly zone was enforced, but the search yielded nothing. Further sweeps of Yahall's scrubland and quays proved equally fruitless, though Interpol's involvement signaled the case's gravity. For 6 years, Tina's absence haunted Yahall, her family clinging to hope, while whispers of Richard's involvement grew louder. The truth lay hidden in the very home they shared. On October 10, 2023, the case escalated to a murder investigation. Richard, then in his 50s, was arrested and interrogated at a Cork Garda station. The next day, he was released without charge, but the Gardaí's focus turned to the Satchwell residence. On October 12th, a specialized team uncovered human remains beneath the stairs in what tabloids described as a former small bathroom, sealed in a concrete tomb. The remains, wrapped tightly in a plastic bag, bore a belly ring and a Tweety bird tattoo, unmistakable markers of Tina's identity, later confirmed by dental records on October 13th. That same day, Richard was rearrested. The discovery painted a horrifying picture. Tina, killed in her own home, had been concealed for years under the stairs, her body preserved in a makeshift grave while Richard maintained his facade of innocence. On October 14, 2023, he appeared before Cashel District Court. His guilty plea, shattering the lies had spun for 6 years. The motive remains unclear. Perhaps a domestic dispute, perhaps a darker secret, but the brutality of hiding her body in their shared home spoke of a cold, calculated betrayal. As Yahall mourned, the image of Tina's remains, entombed in concrete, lingered as a chilling testament to a marriage turned deadly. In the bustling streets of Fulham, London, on July 28, 1986, 25-year-old estate agent Susie Lamplugh stepped out of her office for a routine appointment and vanished into one of Britain's most enduring mysteries. Her diary noted at 12:45 p.m. meeting with a client, Mr. Kipper, at 37 Shorrells Road to show a property. She never returned. Her white Ford Fiesta was found later that day in Stevenage Road, a mile away, with the keys in the ignition and her purse inside. No trace of Susie has ever been found, and her case remains a haunting enigma, with John Cannon, a convicted murderer, named as the prime suspect in 2002. Susie, vibrant and ambitious, was a rising star at Sturgis Estate Agents. Her disappearance sparked a massive search, with police interviewing clients and scouring CCTV. But Mr. Kipper proved elusive. Witnesses reported seeing Susie arguing with a man near the property, described as well-dressed, possibly in a suit, but no clear leads emerged. The name Kipper itself, possibly a pseudonym or misheard, added to the mystery, with theories ranging from a deliberate alias to a clerical error in her diary. Despite extensive searches, including dives in nearby canals and appeals on Crime Watch, Susie's fate remained unknown. Her case declared a presumed murder in 1994. John Cannon, a suave and manipulative career criminal, entered the frame years later. By 1986, he was already a predator with a history of violence. Born in 1954, Cannon had a rap sheet dating back to his teens, including robbery and sexual assault. In 1981, he was convicted of raping a woman at knife point, serving 5 years. Released in 1986, just months before Susie's disappearance, he was living in London, frequenting wine bars and posing as a charming professional to lure women. In 1987, he abducted and murdered Shirley Banks, a 29-year-old newlywed, in Bristol. Cannon lured Shirley to his car, raped her, and bludgeoned her to death with a rock, dumping her body in a stream called Dead Woman's Ditch, a name that chilled investigators. Convicted in 1989, he received a life sentence with a minimum of 35 years. In 2002, the Metropolitan Police took the rare step of naming Cannon as the prime suspect in Susie's disappearance, citing overwhelming circumstantial evidence. His profile fit the case. He resembled a photo fit of a man seen with Susie, was known to use aliases like Kipper in his scams, and had access to a BMW similar to one spotted near the crime scene. Prison informants claimed he boasted of killing a woman matching Susie's description, and his history of targeting young women in professional settings aligned with her job. Yet, the Crown Prosecution Service ruled there was insufficient evidence to charge him, as no body or forensic evidence linked him directly to Susie. Cannon, maintaining his innocence, taunted police from his cell, reportedly saying, "You'll never find her," on October 9, 2025. The parole board rejected Cannon's bid for release from HMP Full Sutton, deeming him too dangerous. Now in his 70s, he remains a suspect in Susie's case and possibly others, including the 1981 murder of Sandra Newton in Swindon. His crimes paint a portrait of a predator who thrived on control, his charm masking a brutal sadism. Susie's family, particularly her parents Paul and Diana, who founded the Susie Lamplugh Trust to promote personal safety, have lived with the agony of no closure. The image of Susie's empty car, abandoned with her belongings, and the ghostly Mr. Kipper in her diary linger as symbols of a killer's cunning and a case that refuses to yield its secrets. In the quiet suburb of West Valley City, Utah, Susan Cox Powell, a 28-year-old mother of two, vanished on December 6, 2009, leaving behind a trail of fear and a family shattered by unimaginable horror. Susan, a devoted wife and mother, lived with her husband, Josh Powell, and their sons, Charlie, Ford, and Braden, two in a modest home. Her disappearance, coupled with Josh's erratic behavior and the eventual murder of their children, exposed a chilling domestic nightmare that the police failed to unravel in time. Susan was last seen on December 6th when a friend visited their home for dinner. Josh claimed that the next morning, Susan was asleep when he took their sons on a spontaneous midnight camping trip in a blizzard to Simpson Springs, a remote desert area, despite sub-zero temperatures. When Susan didn't show up for work at Wells Fargo on December 7th, friends reported her missing. Josh returned home that afternoon, offering vague explanations. He said Susan was tired and might have gone to visit family, but her purse, phone, and keys were still in the house. Her bank accounts remained untouched, and her journal, later uncovered, revealed her growing fear of Josh. Entries described his financial irresponsibility, emotional abuse, and her chilling premonition. "If I die, it may not be an accident, even if it looks like one." The West Valley City Police Department's response was maddeningly inadequate. Despite Susan's documented fears and Josh's implausible camping story, They treated the case as a missing persons rather than a potential homicide. Early searches of the home and Josh's van yielded little, though cadaver dogs detected human decomposition in the vehicle, a lead that went unpursued. Josh, named a person of interest, refused to cooperate fully, moving to Puyallup, Washington, to live with his father, Stephen Powell, by late December. Stephen, a disturbing figure obsessed with Susan, had secretly recorded her and kept explicit materials, later uncovered by police. The investigation stalled, with police failing to press Josh or follow up on leads like a damp couch in their home. Clean the day Susan vanished. Susan's family, led by her parents, Chuck and Judy Cox, pleaded for action, pointing to her journals and Josh's inconsistencies. In 2011, Stephen was arrested for voyeurism and child pornography, revealing a toxic family dynamic, but no charges tied to Susan's disappearance were filed. Meanwhile, Josh gained custody of Charlie and Braden, despite concerns. On February 5, 2012, the case took a devastating turn. During a supervised visit at a rental home in Graham, Washington, Josh locked out a social worker, attacked his sons with a hatchet, and set the house ablaze in a gasoline-fueled explosion. Charlie and Braden, ages 7 and 5, died alongside Josh in the inferno. Autopsies confirmed the boys suffered hatchet wounds before the fire consumed them, a brutal act of filicide that shocked the nation. Investigators later found evidence suggesting Josh's involvement in Susan's fate. A 2013 search of a storage unit revealed blood on a rug, and cadaver dogs again signaled decomposition in Josh's properties, though no body was found. In 2013, police searched an abandoned mine in LA, Nevada, based on Josh's phone pings from 2009, but nothing surfaced. Susan was declared legally dead in 2019, her remains still missing. The police's inaction, ignoring Susan's warnings, delaying searches, and failing to monitor Josh closely, drew fierce criticism, with Chuck Cox accusing them of negligence. Theories persist that Josh, possibly with Stephen's help, killed Susan in their home, disposed of her body, and later murdered their sons to silence them, as Charlie had begun mentioning mommies in the trunk during the camping trip. The tragedy of Susan Cox Powell is a chilling saga of missed opportunities and a predator hiding in plain sight. The image of her son's final moments, trapped in a burning house with their father's rage, and Susan's unheard cries in her journals, cast a long shadow over West Valley City, a reminder of a system that failed a family at every turn. The rain falls in a soft, relentless whisper, cloaking the night in a veil of unease. In the late 1960s, Northern California's quiet corners turned into a slaughterhouse for a killer who wore no face, only a name, the Zodiac. His shadow first fell on December 20th, 1968, in Benicia, where David Faraday, 17, and Betty Lou Jensen, 16, parked on a lover's lane, their young hearts racing with stolen moments. The Zodiac crept from the darkness, his gun spitting fire. David's skull shattered as a bullet tore through his temple, blood spraying the car's interior. Betty Lou stumbled into the gravel, her body convulsing as 5 shots ripped through her back, her life pooling in crimson beneath the stars. On July 4th, 1969, in a Vallejo parking lot, Michael Mageau, 19, survived a hail of bullets that shredded his jaw and chest, his screams drowned by the roar of gunfire. Darlene Farron, 22, wasn't so lucky. Her body slumped, riddled with holes, her blood soaking the seat. At Lake Berryessa in September 1969, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard, both 20, picnicked by the water when a hooded figure, a crosshair symbol sewn onto his chest, descended. His knife plunged into Brian's back 6 times, each thrust tearing muscle and sinew. Cecilia endured 10 savage stabs, her abdomen slashed open, intestines spilling as she gasped her last breaths over 2 agonizing days. In San Francisco's Presidio Heights on October 11, 1969, cab driver Paul Stein, 29, took a fare to his doom. A single bullet to the back of his head, his brain splattering the dashboard, his body left crumpled in the urban night. This killer's true weapon was his arrogance, scrawled in letters to the San Francisco Chronicle, each word dripping with mockery. Ciphers, some cracked in 1969, revealed his twisted fantasy of collecting slaves for an afterlife empire, his pen as cold as his blade. He claimed 37 kills, though only 5 are certain, each letter a taunt that kept police chasing shadows. Arthur Leigh Allen, a Vallejo schoolteacher with a Zodiac watch and a face matching sketches, loomed large in suspicion. He lived near the killing grounds, his typewriter a possible match for the killer's notes, yet no blood, no prints, no DNA ever pinned him. Names like Richard Gaikowski and Lawrence Kane surfaced later, their lives tangled in coincidence but never proof. The 2020 decoding of the 340 cipher offered only more riddles, no name. The Zodiac's hooded silhouette at Berryessa, his crosshair glaring like a predator's eye, and his letters gloating over blood-soaked scenes, branded him a phantom of terror. He slipped through the cracks of the 1970s, perhaps dead, perhaps grinning from some forgotten corner, leaving a wound in America's psyche that festers still. The rain thickens, blurring his shadow into another nightmare, one born in the Hollywood Hills. In the summer of 1969, the air at 10,050 Cielo Drive carried the scent of jasmine and impending doom. Charles Manson, a wiry ex-con with eyes that burned through souls, sent his family to unleash hell. On August 9th, Sharon Tate, 26, radiant and 8.5 months pregnant, begged for her unborn son as Tex Watson's knife sank into her chest 16 times, her screams choking on blood that sprayed the walls. Her pregnant belly, heavy with life, was sliced open, the child within torn apart with her. Jay Sebring, 35, fought until a bullet shattered his skull, his body collapsing in a pool of gore. Wojciech Frykowski, 32nd, staggered through 51 stab wounds, his scalp gashed, his face a ruined mask of blood. Abigail Folger, 25, fled to the lawn, her nightgown soaked red as 28 stabs shredded her flesh. Stephen Parent, 18, caught in the wrong place, took 4 bullets, his chest cavity torn apart, his car a coffin. The word pig gleamed wetly on the door, written in Sharon's blood. The next night, in Los Feliz, Lino and Rosemary LaBianca faced Manson himself. Bound and gagged, Lino endured 12 stab wounds, his throat slashed to the bone, war carved into his gut, a carving fork jutting grotesquely from his stomach. Rosemary stabbed 41 times, her spine exposed through gaping wounds, lay beside him, Their home, a charnel house. Manson's twisted dream of helter-skelter, a race war, to crown him a dark messiah, drove his followers to this frenzy. Drugged and enthralled, they wielded knives with feral glee, their hands slick with blood. The crime scenes were carnage, walls painted red, bodies hacked beyond recognition, Sharon's pleas echoing in the responders' ears. Convicted in 1971, their death sentences became life when California's laws shifted. But the savagery, a pregnant starlet butchered, her baby destroyed, scarred the nation. Sharon's blood-soaked form, curled around her unborn child, remains a frozen scream of depravity. The rain softens, carrying us from Hollywood's horror to Chicago's shadowed streets. On July 13, 1966, Chicago's South Side became a slaughter pen. Richard Speck, a 24-year-old drifter, his mind warped by booze, drugs, and a brain lesion that pulsed with violence, broke into a townhouse at 2300th Street, and 9 student nurses slept inside. Their dreams shattered as Speck, knife and gun in hand, bound them with shredded bedsheets. One by one, he led them to their doom. Gloria Davy, 22nd, was raped, her body violated before his knife slashed her throat, blood gushing onto the floor. Patricia Matusek, 20th, choked under his grip, her windpipe crushed. Nina Schmale, 24, and Pamela Wilkening, 20, were stabbed, their hearts pierced, organs spilling from ragged wounds. Suzanne Ferris, 21st, and Marianne Jordan, 20, fought as his blade hacked their flesh, each stab a wet thud. Merlita Gargulo, 22, and Valentina Pageon, 23, endured up to 40 minutes of torture, their screams muffled as he carved their bodies, blood pooling beneath them. Corazon Amorao, 23, hid under a bed, her breath held as Speck's boots thudded past, her friends' dying gasps filling the air. Over 5 hours, he reveled in their agony, his hands stained red. Speck's motive was a fog of rage and sadism, his lesion perhaps amplifying a need to dominate. Corazon's testimony, whispered through trauma, led to his arrest days later, his 1967 conviction sealing him to a life sentence after death was commuted. He died in 1991, but the image of 8 young women, their bodies bound and torn, blood soaking the townhouse, haunts Chicago still. The rain shifts, pulling us deeper into the city's darkness, to a suburban house where a clown's smile hid a monster. John Wayne Gacy's Norwood Park home was a tomb masquerading as a haven. From 1972 to 1978, he lured 33 boys and young men, some as young as 14, with promises of work or cash. Inside, his rope trick became their nightmare, a tourniquet of rope twisted around their necks, strangling them as they gasped. Some endured hours of torture. Gacy bit into their flesh, tearing chunks from their thighs, severing genitals with a knife, blood dripping onto the floorboards. Others were raped, their bodies broken before death. 26 were stuffed into the crawl space beneath his house, their corpses rotting, limbs tangled in a putrid mass, the stench seeping through the wall. 4, including 15-year-old Robert Piest, were tossed into the Des Plaines River when space ran dry, their bodies bloated and gnawed by fish. Robert's 1978 disappearance cracked the case, leading police to a house reeking of death. Gacy, a contractor and clown, who entertained at children's parties, hid behind a jovial mask, even as whispers linked him to a network of pedophiles and snuff filmmakers. His arrest in December 1978 unveiled a crawl space crammed with bones, some still bearing rope marks, others reduced to sludge. Convicted in 1980, he was executed in 1984, denying his crimes to the end. He encouraged her crimes to the end. The horror of 33 lives, mostly children, tortured and discarded, and the clown costume grinning over their graves, brands Gacy as evil incarnate. As the rain fades to a whisper, the crawl space's stench lingers, a reminder of the darkness that festers beneath ordinary facades, leaving us to drift into uneasy sleep. The rain falls heavy, a cold curtain over Ohio's quiet fields, where John Smith's shadow cast a long and bloody trail. In 1974, the air in Springfield Township turned thick with dread when Janice Hartman, a 23-year-old newlywed, vanished from her home. Her husband, John, a wiry man with a disarming smile, told police she'd left him, but her family smelled locked. 5 years later, in 1979, a hunter stumbled on a gruesome find in a cornfield, a wooden box, barely 3 feet long, containing Janice's dismembered remains. Her legs had been sawed off below the knees, her torso wrapped in plastic, her identity confirmed by dental record. The coroner's report was a litany of horror. Blunt force trauma to her skull, her body hacked apart post-mortem, the cuts clean but brutal, as if done with a butcher's precision. John, the last to see her, spun tales of her running off, but the box told a different story. Convicted in 1980 for her murder, he was sentenced to 15 years to life, his charm no match for the evidence of his savagery. By 1991, John had remarried Fran Gladden, a 48-year-old woman from West Windsor, New Jersey, whose warmth and trust blinded her to his darkness. On October 4, 1991, Fran vanished from their Hamilton Township home. John claimed she'd left after an argument, her car found abandoned at a train station, her purse and keys inside. No bank activity, no phone calls. Fran was gone, her disappearance echoing Janice. Police suspected John, but with no body, no charges stuck. The Cold Case Files episode, The Lady in the Box, Season 2, Episode 9, aired February 2003, laid bare the parallels. 2 wives, 2 vanishings, 1 man at the center. Fran's family, especially her daughter Betty, clung to hope. But John's history painted a grim picture. His methodical disposal of Janice, her body stuffed into a box head built himself, suggested a killer who planned, who savored control, In 2019, the case cracked open. Mercer County prosecutors indicted John, now 71, for Fran's murder, charging him with first-degree murder and hindering apprehension. He was already serving life in Ohio's Chillicothe Correctional Institution for Janice's killing, his parole repeatedly denied. The indictment, announced October 10, 2019, by prosecutor Angelo Onofre, cited new evidence but kept details sparse to protect the case. A 2022 Trentonian article noted the trial's complexity. Prosecutors barred from mentioning Janice's murder to avoid prejudice, focusing instead on Fran's disappearance and John's inconsistent stories. He told neighbors Fran was visiting family in Florida, yet her relatives heard nothing. A search of their home in 1991 found no blood, but luminol tests in later years hinted at cleaned-up traces, though inconclusive. Fran's body remains missing, her fate a void filled with suspicion. As of August 2025, no trial verdict has surfaced. Court records from Mercer County show delays due to John's health issues and legal wrangling, with his defense arguing lack of physical evidence. A 2023 Asbury Park Press report confirmed he remains incarcerated, his Ohio parole bids failing through 2024. The Cold Case Files episode, once streamable on Amazon Prime with an A&E add-on, is now unavailable, possibly due to legal sensitivities around active cases, though A&E's removal could stem from licensing shifts, not policy. Posts on X and true crime forums, like Reddit's R True Crime, speculate ongoing appeals or suppressed evidence, but no new articles confirm a resolution. The case lingers, a ghost in the rain, with Fran's absence and Janice's, mutilated, remains a chilling testament to John's hidden cruelty. The image of that wooden box, buried in a field, its contents carved with cold intent, carries us to another tale of horror. On August 25, 2002, the Chishuichi Forest Park in Taiwan's Changhua County, with its winding trails and whispering acacia trees, became a graveyard. A woman, hiking alone while waiting for friends, caught the sharp sting of acetone in the air. Her unease led her to a ditch near the trail, where a raised mound cloaked in unnatural weeds hid black plastic bags. Brushing aside the foliage, she prodded the pile, and a charred human foot, blackened and brittle, jutted out, its toes curled in a final scream. Police swarmed the scene, peeling back layers of plastic to reveal a woman's body, her flesh scorched to a crisp, her face melted by corrosive liquid, her fingerprints seared away. The bags, stuffed with branches, cradled her remains like a grotesque cocoon, her identity erased by fire and acid. The coroner's report, finalized August 29th, painted a brutal picture. The woman, about 40, stood 165 centimeters tall, her body clothed when set ablaze, fibers fused into her charred skin. Strangulation marks circled her neck, dark bruises against the ashen flesh, and a deep gash split her inner thigh. Blood long since burned away. Her stomach held traces of ethanol and clozapine, an antipsychotic that dulled her senses before death. The killer had strangled her, beaten her with a stick, then doused her face and hands with caustic soda, the liquid eating through skin and bone. Gasoline followed, igniting her body, flames licking her still-breathing form for over 2 minutes as she writhed, her screams muffled by the remote forest. A platinum ring with a Buddhist and stark engraved gold earrings and an illegal 240-gram breast implant were all that remained to hint at her life. Robbery was ruled out, her jewelry untouched, but suicide was impossible. Police suspected a Southeast Asian migrant worker, or bride, possibly killed by a Taiwanese husband, but searches of over 1,000 records in Changhua, Taichung, Yunlin, and Nantou yielded nothing. Detective Zhang Wenan, haunted by a missing woman he knew, Chen Jinli, refused to let the case die. Jinli, 40, vanished August 2, 2002, from Taichung, last seen playing cards with a neighbor when her husband, Xu Qinjian, whispered to her and left. Jinli's daughter, Chu Shooting, called Wentown, frantic, suspecting Chinjan, a lazy philanderer who cheated on Jinli repeatedly, including with Lai Huxi, a factory accountant Jinli had fired. Their marriage, a cycle of divorces and remarriages since 1993, was a war zone. Chinjan, a police informant, had stolen factory equipment with Huxi, opened a rival business, and beat Jinli when she confronted them. Wenton's superiors dismissed Jinli as the victim, fixated on a foreign origin, but he pressed on, planting informants in Chinjan's factory. Chinjan, paranoid, moved his operation 4 times between 2003 and 2000. In 2006, lawyer Zhang Tingshan's bizarre TV seance, aired live from a funeral home, thrust the case into Taiwan's spotlight. The unidentified body, exhumed for his cameras, remained. By 2009, he orchestrated a sting, using a TV crew to expose electricity theft at Chinjan's factory, sparking a fight that drove Huxi to shooting. Huxi's taunt, "Ask your father," pushed shutting to get Chinjan drunk, coaxing a slurred confession. He'd beaten Jinli with a stick, burned her corpse. On May 8, 2009, Huxi's children, Lai Zhenfang and Lai Xinghong, mocked shooting, hinting at their mother's role. Wenton confronted them, arresting Huichi, her sons, and factory workers Zhang Yucheng and Su Chuankai, both 24 and 23, former employees of Jinli's, poached by Chinjan. Confessions unraveled the whole. Chinjan and Huxi, enraged by Jinli's attempts to reclaim her factory, plotted her death. On August 2, 2002, Chinjan laced Jinli's wine with clozapine at Yijiang Bridge, her body slumping as Huxi arrived with a rented minibus. Yuqing and Chuankai, lied to about Jinli's greed, joined the plot, unaware it meant murder. At their factory, they gathered sticks, a towel, gasoline, and caustic soda. In Taiwan's mountains, the workers' weak strangling failed, and Jinli woke, struggling. Chinjan, furious, beat her head with a stick, her skull fracturing, blood streaming as she wept. Still alive, she was doused with gasoline and set ablaze, her screams piercing the night for 2 minutes before silence. Caustic soda melted her face and hands, and her body, bagged in plastic, was dumped at Chishuiki Trail, hidden under wheat. A second autopsy in May 2009 confirmed the confession: blunt force wounds, smoke in her lungs, proving she burned alive, and DNA matching Jinli's children. On November 18, 2010, Taiwan's Supreme Court sentenced Chinjan to life, Huxi to 18 years, and Yucheng and Chuankai to 8 and 7 years. The case, a media firestorm, vilified the Changhua police for ignoring Wenton's early pleas, their initial missteps burying Jinli's identity for 7 years. Her charred remains, screaming through the flames, linger as a testament to betrayal and vengeance, the rain carrying us to another tragedy. In the tight-knit Romani community of Piedras Redondas, Almeria, Spain, March 17, 2002, began with joy. 7-year-old Montserrat Fajardo, her dark eyes sparkling, joined her mother, Joaquina Cortez, at her cousin's 4th birthday party. Plans shifted, and Joaquina left Montserrat at her cousin's, promising to return in 3 hours. Montserrat, too caught up in play, missed the words. 2 hours later, She skipped to her great-grandmother's nearby home, then joined relatives playing outside. When Joaquina returned, Montserrat was gone, her path a maze of innocent detours. By nightfall, panic gripped the neighborhood as neighbors scoured the streets, her father, Francisco, certain she'd been kidnapped. At 1:45 a.m. on March 18th, two neighbors spotted a cardboard box on a quiet road, absent just 20 minutes earlier. Dread pulled them closer, and inside they found Montserrat's tiny body, her head peeking from a blood-soaked couch cover, her face barely recognizable, her small frame ravaged. The autopsy was a catalog of cruelty. 36 stab wounds punctured her organs, each gash oozing life from her 7-year-old body. A crushing blow to her suffering, but not before acid scorched 80% of her skin, her flesh bubbling and peeling while she still breathed. Her throat was slit post-mortem, a jagged cut through delicate tissue. Her wrists and ankles bore rope burns, her mouth and nose taped shut to silence her screams. Subcutaneous bruising marked blunt blows, blood pooling beneath her skin. The absence of sexual assault offered no comfort. The savagery suggested multiple killers, driven by personal rage. The box, an 80 CKM folding table package, was spotless, recently bought. Police suspected a local, someone who'd joined the search, dumping her body under cover of chaos. A grocery store owner pointed to Antonio Santiago, 40, husband of Francisco's cousin Juana Santiago, who'd bought a table weeks earlier. Antonio, brain damaged from a military accident, lived in poverty with Juana, 36, and their children, including 11-year-old Maria. Described as timid, he funneled disability payments to his mother, while Juana's arrogance alienated neighbors. On March 19th, as police secured a search warrant, Antonio was found hanging from a tree 4 meters from Montserrat's dump site, a 500-gram pile of salt beneath him, a Romani symbol of justice done, a Romani symbol of justice done. His autopsy showed no struggle, just a ruptured carotid artery, his suicide pinned to guilt and police pressure. The search of Antonio's home reeked of bleach and sulfuric acid, the house unnaturally clean. Police found a half-empty acid bottle, a missing couch cover matching the body's wrap, a barrel with acid traces, and bloody clothes, including Montserrat's outfit, stuffed in garbage bags. Luminol revealed her blood on the yard, bathtub, mop handle, and living room tiles. Juana's fresh burns and stab wounds on her hand, arm, and leg, and acid under her nails, damned her. Witnesses placed her with Montserrat at 7:40 p.m. On March 17th, loud music and muffled fighting heard from her home. Juana's erratic behavior, smoking nervously at 11 p.m., borrowing a car during the funeral to dump garbage, sealed her arrest. Juana's confessions shifted like sand. First, she admitted luring Montserrat home, where she, Antonio, and Maria's aunt Engracia Santiago, 48, beat her, Engracia pouring acid as Maria watched, sobbing. Juana claimed Antonio slit Montserrat's throat and disposed of her body alone. Later, she said, Antonio acted solo, forcing her to clean up her burns from resisting. A third tale pinned Engracia's husband, Antonio Fernandez, 52, as the acid pourer, with Juana as a bystander. Engracia and Fernandez, arrested March 23rd, denied everything, but their alibis crumbled. Their son confirmed they weren't at his home, and a call to their house at 11:47 p.m. went unanswered. Their home held matching tape and acid traces, shoe prints tying Ingracia to Juana's balcony. Maria, traumatized, spoke after months of therapy in November 2002. She described Juana stabbing Montserrat, Ingracia, and Fernandez, binding her, and acid burning her alive as Maria fled, crying. The trial, October 3, 2005, in Almeria's provincial court, saw 56 witnesses and 13 experts. Prosecutors argued Juana, driven by jealousy over Joaquina's popularity and debts to Montserrat's family, lured Montserrat home, tied her to a chair, and stabbed her 36 times, her small body jerking with each blow. Ingracia, arriving to deliver medicine, joined or watched, her grudge fueling an action. Acid seared Montserrat's skin as she gasped, Juana slashing her throat post-mortem. Antonio, weak-willed, helped dispose of her but didn't kill. Albeit. On October 20th, Juana, Ingracia, and Fernandez got 25 years, reduced to 23 on appeal in 2006, with 150,000 euros in compensation. Fernandez died in prison. Francisco's vengeance, shooting at Juana's son in September 2002, earned him 7 years. Montserrat's acid-scarred body, taped and bleeding in a box, haunts Almeria, the rain fading to another horror. In the quiet Woking, Surrey home, where 10-year-old Sarah Sharif should have been safe, a nightmare unfolded. On August 10, 2023, her body was found, a fragile frame broken by multiple and extensive injuries sustained over weeks, possibly months. The post-mortem, reported by the BBC, revealed a tapestry of brutality. Broken bones, including a fractured hyoid from strangulation, burns on her skin, and bite marks scarring her small body. Bruises layered her torso, some fresh, others fading, evidence of prolonged abuse. Her cause of death remained undetermined, the sheer volume of trauma obscuring a single fatal blow. But the coroner noted her injuries were no accident. Someone had tormented her relentlessly. 2 days earlier, on August 8, her father, Irfan Sharif, 41, fled to Pakistan with his wife, Binash Batul, 29, his brother Faisal Shahzad Malik, 28, and 5 children, aged 1 to 13. From Islamabad, Irfan called 909, his voice calm as he reported Sarah's death, claiming she'd been naughty and had panicked. The delay meant Sarah lay dead, alone, in their Hammond Road home, her body stiffening as they boarded a flight. Pakistani police launched a manhunt, raiding 20 homes and detaining relatives, as reported by The Guardian. The children were found with a grandparent and placed in child protection services. Irfan and Batul, in a video released August 6, 2023, via The Sun, claimed innocence, decrying harassment by Pakistani police, their fear of ill treatment pushing them to negotiate with the British High Commission. On September 13, 2023, the trio landed at Gatwick Airport from Dubai, traveling business class, arranged by UK authorities. Surrey police, per the Daily Mail, stormed the plane, arresting Irfan, Batul, and Malik, hauling them to separate vans. Charged with murder and causing or allowing a child's death, they faced trial in 2024 at the Old Bailey. A BBC report from December 2024 detailed the proceedings. Irfan admitted beating Sarah but denied murder, claiming Batul's abuse was worse. Batul accused Irfan of relentless violence, while Malik, the uncle, claimed ignorance, though evidence showed he lived in the home. Sarah's diary, uncovered by police, chronicled her fear, with entries begging for rescue from punishment. Medical records revealed 71 injuries, including a fractured skull and spinal damage, inflicted over months. Neighbors reported hearing screams, one recalling a slapping sound weeks before her death. On December 18, 2024, Irfan and Batul were convicted of murder, Malik of causing or allowing death per the Times. Irfan got life with a 40-year minimum, Batul 33 years, and Malik 16 years. The judge described Sarah's life as a living hell, her body a map of cruelty, burns from an iron, bite marks, oozing blood, and fractures from repeated blows. A 2025 Guardian update noted ongoing inquiries into social services failures, as Sarah's school had flagged concerns, ignored by authorities. Posts on X reflect public outrage, some calling for harsher sentences. Sarah's broken body, hidden in a home meant to protect her, lingers as a cry for justice, the rain washing us to another darkness. On July 22, 2004, Hong Kong's Kwun district, a maze of concrete and hills, became a stage for horror. 5 sanitation workers from the Environmental Hygiene Department, tasked with mosquito extermination near Lam Tin Polyclinic on Kai Tin Road, descended a steep hillside using zip lines to spray oil. At the foot of the hill, in a shallow stream, less than 5 cm deep, one worker froze. There lay a decomposing body, bloated and reeking, its long hair matted in the water. The woman, described as obese, wore a yellow undershirt rolled up to her neck and white panties, her flesh swollen and discolored from days in the humid heat. Police arrived within 20 minutes, confirming she'd been dead for at least a week. No signs of sexual assault were found, but the remote, treacherous terrain suggested she was killed elsewhere and dumped. A helicopter aided the search, revealing a wheelbarrow 10 meters away, holding a corrosive-stained orange blanket. On a nearby rocky outcrop, police found black pants, 12 empty glass bottles, and a purse with 11 Hong Kong dollars, photos, and an ID card naming 18-year-old Lu Ming. Firefighters, using ropes and a stretcher, hauled her body up the hill. Up, her father, heart shattered, identified her. The coroner's report, post-autopsy, was grim. Ming died around July 15th, her body heavily decomposed, her face ravaged by corrosive burns. The left side melted beyond recognition, skin and muscle dissolved into a grotesque slurry. Blunt force wounds and bruises covered her torso and limbs, some fresh, others older, hinting at prolonged abuse. The cause of death was inconclusive due to decomposition, but the acid burns and trauma led to a homicide ruling. Her swollen eyes and blued face told of a brutal end, her body a canvas of cruelty. Ming grew up in Cha Kuoling village with her parents and 2 siblings. After St. Anthony's Primary School, she attended Jiao Lay Secondary School in Kwun, but dropped out due to failing grade. In 2002, during summer vacation, she joined a poverty alleviation mission to Sichuan, China. Living in a rural village without plumbing, she donated money to local children and dreamed of funding a school if she ever struck it rich. Back in Hong Kong, She worked as a trainee assistant at Lei Yue Mun Family Service Center, then volunteered at hospitals and nursing homes, aspiring to become a kindergarten teacher. 6 months before her death, she met a boy online, sharing hobbies and dreams. Their online love fizzled when he fell for her friend, crushing Ming's self-esteem and spurring her to buy health products and exercise obsessively to lose weight. In June 2004, she earned a volunteer certificate, proudly displaying it at home, but her father unknowingly ruined it by scribbling work notes on it. A furious argument followed, with Ming blaming her mother's greasy cooking for her weight struggles. She stormed out, moving in with 15-year-old Rao Janning, whose family her mother trusted. On July 3rd, Ming's sister, Liu Jing, spotted her at a mall, pale with purple lips and dull eyes. Ming recounted a chilling trip to Lama and Lantau Islands in late June. Taking the last ferry, her group couldn't return, sleeping on a beach. During a barbecue, Ming screamed, claiming she saw a female ghost in red. Her friends, spooked, said they saw it too. Fleeing in panic, back on Lantau, they sought a magician for an exorcism, but Ming, exhausted, missed it. Her friends still saw the ghost, and Ming claimed it haunted her at Jianning's home. Jian, alarmed, urged her to seek help, but it was their last meeting. Police focused on Jianning's apartment, where CCTV footage from July 16 showed 5 young men at 3:00 a.m. pushing a handcart with a yellow cardboard box into the 13th floor elevator. By 3:07, they exited the building, vanishing from cameras. At 3:20, 2 returned. At 6:24, all were back without the cart, which matched the one at the crime scene. A security guard recalled them claiming to haul garbage. Police identified 21-year-old Du Jianyu, Jianning's boyfriend, and a triad gang member with a record for robbery, 1999, and drug possession, 2007. Others included 18-year-old Huang Jingwei, a Guangdong native who joined Zhenyu's gang after dropping out. 18-year-old Wu Aoxian, possibly a teen father. 13-year-old Suan Ziwei. 14-year-old Sai Siwei, fined for pirated DVDs and jailed for statutory rape. 15-year-old Li Yanlang. 13-year-old Lian, identity protected, and Pan Howei, expelled for assault. Jianning and 14-year-old Yan Hao Tian were also suspected. By July 30th, police arrested 14 suspects, including Zhenyu, Jingwei, Ioxian, Jianning, Howei, Weishi, Siwai, Yilan, Haoqian, Lao Anna, 20, Lao Anna, 20, Lao Jioi. A raid on Lee Pavilion uncovered wiped bloodstains, bloody dumbbells, 80 DNA samples, and 40 fingerprints. At their August 27, 2004, hearing, the 14 gave a convoluted confession. Ming met Jianning in April, lured by her claim that her triad leader, father, owned a condominium where strays could stay. Ming, jobless and vulnerable, joined, drawn by drugs promised to aid weight loss. She sought respect, calling meetings and making plans, which enraged Zhenyu, who saw her as arrogant. The gang humiliated her, rigging a truth or dare game to strip her, but she stayed, moving in after her family fight. On the island trip, a red-dressed ghost sighting, likely drug-induced, gave Zhenyu a cruel idea. He faked possessions, convulsing and speaking in a female voice, claiming a ghost, demanded revenge by July 14's Ghost Festival, terrifying Ming and others. On July 11th, Ming's panic prompted Jinyu to order a beating, accusing her of theft. On July 14th, claiming she was possessed, they beat her for 20 minutes, then escalated using sticks, rolling pins, and a dumbbell to her head and abdomen. Jinyu, feigning possession, ordered rape, with spoons inserted into her genitals and forced oral sex. Haowei and Aoxian resisted but were threatened. Jianing slammed Ming's head into a cabinet. By 3:00 a.m. on July 15th, Ming stopped moving. At 8:00 a.m., finding her dead, they attempted CPR, then boxed and dumped her body. 4 suspects were cleared. Haotian and Yilang charged with assault and preventing burial. Liang got immunity for testifying. On June 1st, 2006, the 10 remaining faced Hong Kong's Supreme Court. The prosecutor called the beatings horrific, detailing her torture. After 43 days, the jury acquitted Ziwei and convicted the rest of manslaughter, not murder. Sentences were lenient. Jinyu and Jingwei got 9 years. Jingwei's reduced to 8 in 2008. Haowei, 5 years 9 months. Yilang, 3 years. Weishi, 6 years 4 months. Jianing, 4 years 6 months. Aoxian, 5 years 6 months. Haotian, a group home. Hong Kong erupted in outrage. Ming's family was devastated. Defendants' families called the sentences too harsh or playful accidents. Ziwei, guilt-ridden, died by suicide in 2007, jumping from a roof. Post-release, some returned to crime. Weishi, freed in 2009, attacked a prosecutor with corrosive ink, earning 10 years in 2011. In 2018, he got 28 months for drug trafficking. Jinyu, in 2014, stole laptops and cash, receiving 28 months. Haowei, in 2016, was caught with 50 grams of ketamine, sentenced to 3 years, 6 months. Others vanished into obscurity. Meiying's acid-scarred, beaten body dumped in a stream, screams of a gang's cruelty, and a ghost story twisted into murder. The rain carrying us to another horror. On August 10, 2017, Copenhagen's waters hid a grotesque secret. Kim Wall, a 30-year-old Swedish journalist known for her fearless reporting, vanished after boarding the UC-free Nautilus, a 40-ton submarine built by Danish inventor Peter Madsen. Madsen, a 46-year-old eccentric dubbed Rocket Madsen for his amateur rockets and subs, was a minor celebrity in Denmark's DI engineering scene. Wall, freelancing for Wired, joined him for an interview, last seen waving from the sub's tower at 7:00 p.m. as it sailed from Refshalon. By midnight, her boyfriend reported her missing. The next day, Madsen resurfaced alone, disheveled with dried blood on his nose, claiming had dropped Wall off at 10:30 p.m. after engine trouble. Hours later, the Nautilus sank. Deliberately, investigators later proved, off Koji Bay. Rescued by a private boat, Madsen spun a tale of a malfunction, but police smelled lies. The search for Wall turned grim. On August 21st, a cyclist found her torso, deliberately weighted with metal pipes, washed ashore on Amager Island. Stab wounds, 15 to her genitals, 7 elsewhere, suggested sadistic intent. Her head, legs, and arms were missing. Her blood found inside the sub. Madsen, arrested August 12th, shifted stories. First, Wall died when a 70-kilo hatch crushed her skull, and he buried her at sea. Then, carbon monoxide poisoned and killed her while he was on deck. Diverters later recovered her head, showing no skull fracture, and her limbs all bearing stab marks and metal weights. Forensic analysis revealed Wall was alive during the stabbings, her lungs air-filled, her body mutilated post-mortem to hinder identification. A hard drive from Madsen's workshop held videos of women being tortured and decapitated, though not of Wall. Psychiatrists noted his narcissistic and psychopathic traits, describing a man obsessed with control and violent sexual fantasy. Madsen's trial, starting March 8, 2018, at Copenhagen City Court, was a media circus. He admitted to dismembering Wall, but denied murder, claiming her death was accidental. Prosecutors argued he planned it, luring her with the interview, bringing a saw and straps aboard. Evidence included texts to his wife about diving alone and searches for beheading and girl agony. On April 25th, Madsen was convicted of premeditated murder, sexual assault, and corpse desecration, sentenced to life, rare in Denmark, meaning at least 12 years before parole eligibility. He appealed, seeking a reduced sentence. But on September 26, 2018, the Eastern High Court upheld the verdict. In 2020, Madsen confessed to a journalist during a phone call, admitting he killed Wall, though he claimed it wasn't planned, saying, "I lost my mind." On October 20th, 2020, Madsen staged a bizarre escape from Herstedvester prison. Threatening guards with a fake pistol and claiming to have a bomb, he fled, only to be caught an hour later, sitting in bushes 500 meters away, surrounded by armed police. Photos showed him, sheepish, with snipers, lasers on him, earning mockery online. Sentenced to 21 months for the escape, added to his life term. He remains at Herstedvester as of August 2025, per The Guardian. Parole bids in 2023 and 2024 were denied, with his next hearing set for 2029, per BBC. Posts on X reflect ongoing fascination, some calling him a clown for the escape, others noting the Netflix documentary Into the Deep, 2020, praised for honoring Wall. No new legal developments emerged in 2025, per recent checks on Dr. Quay. Wall's dismembered, stabbed body, sunk in a sub, haunts Denmark, a testament to Madsen's depravity, the rain fading to another tragedy.